Hello there, and welcome back to the Japan Game Junk podcast. And it is with great sorrow that I express to you the death of one of the best retro game shops that you would find in Japan, for the combination of its value and its stock and its access. It was one of the last very good quality, for shoppers, that is, not for gawkers, shops for used games and retro games in Akihabara in Tokyo. And it was the Trader store. There are a few, but this is the main store that recently was moved and then renovated to make it nice and beautiful. And it lost some of its charm in that move, in that process. It's quite unfortunate. It now looks much like every other Akihabara store that's catering to the gawkers and the tourists, and no longer has very good deals on used stuff. Anyway, still though, on this visit, my first to this store in its new version, there was plenty of stuff to pass along, and who knows, maybe you yourself would want to venture there for these kind of deals. So let's get into it. First, I noticed upon walking in on the right, the new showcase of the rare stuff to get all the tourists in to say, wow, that's amazing. One thing, a complete boxed version of the Game Boy player for GameCube. Now, this is not so rare, but this is the one made by Panasonic for the Panasonic Q hybrid GameCube and DVD player, which, again, not understanding how things would go, I did own a boxed version of this system way back when, about almost 20 years ago now, and it's almost exactly 20 years ago now that I bought cheap and used because it was, an old system, no longer supported, and sold off for more than I paid for it, thinking it was a good deal, and now, of course, they're much more expensive. But this is something I'd never seen before, the Game Boy player that plugs into the Panasonic Q GameCube, which is not compatible with the standard Game Boy player, so I'd imagine it also has its own special BIOS to look different than the standard Game Boy player, but that is not anything of my knowledge. This machine, this add-on for your Panasonic GameCube, nice condition in box. 228,000 yen, basically $2,000 for this thing, which I believe actually was only available by mail order from Panasonic back in the day. It was never seen in any stores, as far as I know. Next up, that was kind of interesting, was a machine that I remember from the Trader before it moved. A Game Boy Light for the... it's a Game Boy Light, right? This is the one that has the Tezuka Osamu World characters on it, so it was a special edition. And boxed, in good condition. And it was being sold at the previous Trader store for 78,000 yen. Now, the same stock, they just moved it over to the new stores now for 108,000 yen. Again, I've never seen one boxed before, so it's a bit of a good buy if you absolutely have to have it as far as quality goes, but it's unfortunate that they've bumped up the price so much. But it's nice to see, I guess. I guess I turned into a gawking tourist because I didn't buy it, right? Then something I found very strange was for the Retro Freak, which I've gone over before, a boxed version of the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES cartridge converter, where you plug in your Nintendo games and you plug that in the Retro Freak Famicom slot to play those. Used to be able to find these for a few thousand yen, I guess, new, and this one being sold for 13,800 yen. You could just use any standard converter. You don't have to use this one, but I guess this Retro Freak boxed version, a bit on the pricey side. They had a couple copies of Batman for the Famicom. Very good game from Sunsoft for 4,000 yen. Kind of par for the course. Did have a very nicely conditioned box and manual of the Hero Retsuden Famicom Jump game, which is kind of an oversized box. It's got some extra stuff in there. It's got a kind of a bigger cartridge size too. And that was kind of a good deal at 780 yen. Being complete, that's pretty good. What was not good is that not even with the manual or box, a PC Engine Duo system 60,000 yen. That's the most expensive I've ever seen one in Japan. However, they did have a huge selection of game soundtracks on CD, which are indeed becoming very collectible. And not the best price, but not so bad. So if you have one that you'd really want to have, then I'd say it probably has a reasonable, acceptable price for the CDs. Some other things that are interesting. Oh, the Metroid Famicom guidebook, How to Win book. Decent condition, but 6,000 yen. So if you want to read in Japanese how to beat Metroid, there you go. An interesting game for the Mega Drive, which has everything, but everything's kind of in rough condition. It says the label and the manual. It's Zo, elephant, elephant, elephant. A weird game with an elephant on the cover here. Rolo to the rescue. I didn't know much about it, but I was just entertained by the cover, and it was 8,180 yen. A game that I remember reading about in magazines way back when for the Mega Drive, a complete version. This is in the showcase of Pulseman, kind of a Mega Man clone, a Mega Man ripoff maybe, before a game was actually made for the Mega Drive. This one being sold complete for 90,800 yen. Quite a pretty penny. And also a pretty penny, which I've seen for less than 5,000 yen at a hard-off store in Chiba Prefecture only a few months ago. The Wonder Witch player for the Wonder Swan color, which lets you kind of create your own software. It's kind of a programming piece of software. It's a fairly big box with lots of stuff in it. Again, about 5,000 yen in a store I saw, like I said, a hard-off store a few months ago. Here, more than 10 times that amount at 54,800 yen. Box looks nice, but the price does not. Also, Vampire Killer, also known as Castlevania Bloodlines, in the West for the Mega Drive. 71,800 yen complete. And even here, the jacket on the front has some scuffs on it. I've never seen it at that price. It's kind of a lot. Perhaps the most expensive item I saw in the store for 800,000 yen. So it's coming up on, depending on the exchange rate, between $6,000 and $10,000. Now it's a little bit over 6,000, I guess. It is the Dreamcast, what's this? The Majora Color version. Kind of a purple one. It's a special edition which only had, I believe it says here, limited edition of, I can't read the glare on here. Limited edition console, and, there were 500 that were made, and fewer than that were actually sold. So, there we go. If you're really desperate to have one, the trader in Akihabara does, but it's going to put you back the cost, not only of a used car, but a good used car in Japan. But there you go. That is the goings-on for a trader visited on June the 3rd of 2024. It's good to go, it's interesting, and in fact on this day I did buy a game for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, but the deals that were there are far fewer than what used to be before moving, so worth going, worth seeing, maybe something worth buying, but it no longer is a bit of a mecca like it used to be. Anyway, hope you enjoyed listening, hope you always enjoy your game shopping, and hope to see that you're listening soon again to other episodes. And yeah, thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Bye.